everyone. Welcome to this Tacton and PRé Sustainability webinar. Topic for today is Tacton CPQ environmental footprint configuration, how you can reduce and measure your scope 3 reductions in a scalable and automated way. And we are really excited about this webinar because this is a new feature. We've been working on this for quite some time. And we're very happy to launch this capability now too. And we think this will be a game changer for many manufacturing companies that has sustainability on the agenda. Another interesting thing with this webinar is that normally we speak with CPQ, configure price quote people. So sales automation is our backyard. But today we've also invited people from the LCA community, which stands for Lifecycle Assessment. And with us today, we have PRé Sustainability CEO who will talk here. So we're very happy to see the integration of these two communities and these two different kinds of systems. And we think that this can be great value for companies. So the agenda and the speakers for today is we will start off with Madeleine, who is our, who is our head of sustainability at Tacton. She will talk about why and the drivers for this work, both from our side, but also from manufacturing. Then I will briefly mention about what CPQ is for those people in the audience that haven't familiarized themselves with this kind of systems. And then Eric Mieras, who is the CEO of PRé Sustainability, we'll talk about, introduce what LCA is, and specifically SimaPro, which is their product here. But the major bulk of this talk will be done by Patrick Östberg, who is the VP of Product Management here at Tacton. And he will be giving you the pain points and the capabilities and the business value of this new feature that we called environmental footprint configuration. And then we'll have some Q&A at the end. So save your questions and type them in the chat, and we will pick them up at the end. Great. So with this, I hand over to Madeleine.
Thank you. So when we talk about drivers, well, the why, so to say, when we talk about drivers for sustainability, or rather environmental sustainability, there are lots of them. And today, I'm going to just focus on the environmental part of sustainability, so not the social things or the governance structure around it. I'm also going to kind of concentrate on manufacturing, because of course there are lots of verticals out there, but manufacturing companies. So lots of different types of stakeholders, as you can see the list here. But I also wanted to mention that manufacturing itself causes 20% of the climate impact from society on Earth. So 20% is 1/5, it's really big. But it's also, manufacturing is the basis for a modern society, such as the buildings you see on in the background here, or the roads and stuff. But 20% is that much? Well, if you look at the flight industry, they cause about 2 to 3%, and that's also the same for IT industry, about 2 to 3%, the use of data centers and servers and so on. So 20% is big. And the drivers, it's a combination between the carrot and stick, so to say, which is good, of course. When it comes to the stick, you can mention things like, for manufacturers, it's about getting the environmental permits to be able to produce your product, or it could be health and safety considerations for the people, the employees you have in the production site. If we then go to what are the carrots? Well, here I need to make a parallel to B2C products, so consumer products, where for years there's been this drive to use environmental information in the form of eco-labels at the point of sales. And we really don't see that much of this in the manufacturing industry, in B2B sales, except maybe from the building industry, where you have a requirement now in Sweden. It will follow in the EU soon on the climate declaration per building, or we also see it in the sales of heavy-duty vehicles, like the Vecto tool in the EU. Anyway, there was a bit about drivers and the carrot and stick and so on. And why do we think it's time to introduce EFCs, environmental footprint configuration? Well, this is a rebus. Maybe you see the solution to this, but I walk you through it. It's climate change is for real. It's accelerating, and it causes disasters that has an impact on logistics, for instance. Logistics for a company, they don't get the parts in time, they need to take part of less quality or so. Or if you are in the food sector, the crops that you rely on, maybe they were, bad year means that they didn't, grow as they should and so on. This causes a financial risk, and if there's something that the financial sector hates, it's surprises. So the financial sector is now requiring more transparency also on climate impact or another environmental impact, but mainly climate impact, and transparency and data reporting and so on. And here you can see we're mentioning Scope 3 reporting. So Scope 3 comes from the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. It's an international standard for how to try to estimate your climate impact. Scope 3 means everything that the producer brings into the production site, like raw materials and stuff, the impact of this, and also the impact of sold products. And I think that is where it gets really interesting, because that is how it's connected to CPQ also, because if you are able as a manufacturer to sell products with less climate impact, that means that you yourself will get a lower climate impact as a company. And then we will talk more about that later. You can also see it says IRA here, so that is the Inflation Reduction Act in the US and the EU Fit for 55. So society is requiring companies to take action, but they're also enabling this by opening up for funding. So there are lots of billions of euros and dollars to fund projects within industry for greener technology. And lastly, I just wanted to say, is it only EU? Well, no, it's not. You have in the US, you have Security and Exchange Commission have released like a draft for climate disclosure requirements. And even though it hasn't been implemented and adopted yet, so 70% of large companies say they will follow this. And in the EU, you have something called the CSR, there's a Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which also requires this. So the future is already here. And with this, I wanted to hand over to somebody who can talk more about CPQ. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so just briefly, before we go into the environmental footprint configuration, let's just recapitulate what CPQ is and what business value it brings to manufacturing companies, because some of the audience here might not have heard this acronym too often. So I'm going to show a video here.
Tacton CPQ helps you close complex deals flawlessly and fast. Your sales reps can configure highly customizable products to their customers' needs without involvement of sales engineering. With guided selling and real-time visualization, product options and selections are understandable also by non-technical sales reps and end customers. Tacton CPQ ensures that the technical solution is valid and buildable by the factory and is regulatory compliant based on the customer's market. Accurate customer net prices are calculated in real time to understand the commercial implications of each product option. Upsell effectively by adding accessories compatible with a configured product. Include multiple revenue types in the same deal, including one-time, subscription, and usage. Optimize your price point to win more deals, while still controlling your deal margin. Generate branded and accurate quotes and CAD files with a click of a button directly in the sales tool. When the deal closes, an order is created automatically from the quote, ensuring smooth and disruption-free downstream processes. With the seamless integration to Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics, your sales staff and resellers get the power of CPQ directly in the CRM. And if you're ready to really boost your sales, you can add your Tacton CPQ to your self-service e-commerce website. Visit Tacton.com to get started with a product configurator you can trust.
So, in essence, what Tacton CPQ does is to consider all of your aspects of your product offering into the configurator. So it takes into consideration not only product limitations, which is what parts goes with which parts of your product, but it also can translate customer needs into a technical solution. It can, of course, take into consideration local regulations and compliance that you may have for the market in which you're selling. Of course, commercial rules will also be a part of that, including not only prices and pricing, but also eligibility for partners and in which markets and so on. Then, of course, you can also take into consideration how this product or the variant will be, how the order fulfillment will go, and the effectiveness of that, so that the factory is prepared to produce the variant that you have configured in the configurator. So all of that takes into consideration what your product is about and minimizes downstream surprises in the order fulfillment. And from in the configurator view, it can look something like this. This example is selling a truck, but you can see here clearly you have needs-based configuration, questions that a non-technical sales rep or even a customer themselves can understand. You don't need to be an expert in trucks to configure a truck. You always have a valid solution. This is not only a simple questionnaire, but it has a constraints engine behind it, ensuring that for every selection, you always have a valid, buildable, and profitable solution at the end. We have conflict resolution, so if the user selects options that are incompatible, you will automatically be notified about those. You can start anywhere in the configurator and end anywhere. You don't have to go through a sequence of steps. We have mandatory fields if you require the end user to input certain things to make the product complete. A visualization also helps and easifies the understanding of what you're configuring. And then, of course, we have instant pricing and sales bill of material after every configurator selection. So you can actually compare and balance performance, price of the product all the way through the configuration. And of course, all of this is then supported in all channels. So you can embed this kind of configurator in your e-commerce or a self-service portal, and for partners as well. And the benefits that we see, of course, is decreased cost, efficiency, not only in terms of faster quotes and less sales efforts, but also reduced order errors, which in the end will also decrease your cost. But also increasing revenue. You can spit out more quotes per sales rep. You can balance, you can get a higher win rate because you have a better product fit with the offering and matching the customer needs with a technical solution. And all of this, of course, reduces the risk in downstream operations. You remove project margin degradation, for instance, during the project, and it strengthens the brand at the end. So all of these are benefits which most of you already know. But now I'm going to hand over to Eric, who's going to talk a little bit, give a short introduction of what an LCA system does and what values it brings. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you, PRé, for the introduction. So my name is indeed Erik Miras. I'm the Managing Director of PRé, and we've been around in this field since 1990, so that's already quite a long time. But we're really happy to see that field innovating and building up new partnerships. But let me first tell a bit more about LCA. So as was mentioned before, the need for robust and reliable environmental footprint data is really increasing. And a lot of people are asking themselves, what is actually a sustainable product? And how can you tell the difference between a sustainable product and a less sustainable alternative? Or how do I configure, in the case of Tacton, the most sustainable product configuration? So all those questions are popping up. And lifecycle assessment, in short, LCA, provides a established but also science-based methodology to assess the environmental impact of a specific product or service. And LCA does that by basically giving you an overview of the entire life cycle or value chain of a product. So it starts with the extraction of raw materials, the manufacturing of products, the transportation, as well as the use and disposal or recycling phase. And for each of those phases, you can get insights into the environmental impact, not just for carbon, but also for other impact categories like water, land use, particulate matter, toxicity, and so on. So if you do an LCA, you really know the environmental product performance, but you also know the drivers of those impacts. It could be a specific material or a number of materials. It could be a specific process that put a large burden on the environment. Then you know what you need to do to improve that. And that information can be used in multiple ways. So it can be an instrument for the research and development team, but also for strategic planning, policy making, and of course also in sales clouds. And that is what we try to do together with Tacton in this collaboration. We can go to the next slide. Then LCA software can provide those insights. We're the developer of SimaPro, which was, like I said, established in 1990, and that is the most widely used LCA software. But that really helps you to make these insights available in a more efficient way. Basically, what you do is build a model of the entire value chain for each product or product category that you have. So it can be an elevator, it can be a bike, it can be a conveyor belt, it can basically be anything. And based on that model, you can identify what are the hotspots and improvement opportunities. So which materials and processes contribute most to my overall impact. And if you set it up in a way that is also configurable so that it can use different inputs, you can create results that are specific to a product configuration or to a certain type of transport, let's say air instead of road transport, or you can change things like packaging or the configuration of the product itself. And once you've done that, you can calculate the environmental impact based on those specific parameters. So you only build the model once, but you can work with it in a dynamic way. And that is also a big change from how LCA was done in the past. But Patrick will tell a bit more about that later on. If we can go to the next slide. Based on that, LCA can inform a wide variety of change makers within a company. Like I said, it can be R&D, it can be procurement. Well, of course, that's specifically of interest in the case of CPQ, but it can also be people in production, in sales, ESG reporting, or customers. But what we try to do is really to give those insights in a consistent and a reliable way to all these different people. So you have one single source of truth for that information that can be used within the entire organization. And in this case, through the users of Tacton CPQ. If we can go to the next slide. So the proven business value of LCA, that's really wide, but 4 important aspects is that you can report the impact. So you can really say this product has this environmental performance in terms of CO2 equivalents or any of the other impact categories that you want to report on. Secondly, you can compare different innovations because if you have built this model, you can compare option A that uses maybe a plastic for the casing of a certain product with option B that uses aluminium or recycled steel. So that gives you really the insights to make those choices on what is the most sustainable option for product development, but also in my specific situation. But thirdly, you can really monitor the performance of those products over the years. And that can be done at a company level, but of course also at a product level. So you know which products and services compare or perform better than others. And lastly, it also helps you to substantiate your targets. And what we see is that a lot of companies set quite ambitious targets, but then that's often done at a company level, and then within the business, people really struggle to understand what they can contribute and how they can influence those targets in a positive way. And having these insights at a more operational or business unit level helps to not only substantiate those targets, but also to make them actionable. And that is really what we try to do in the case of Tacton as well, that these metrics can be used in the choices you make as a customer when it comes to the specific configuration of different product options. So that is, I think, the end, but maybe we can go to the next slide.
Eric, that was a great introduction to the world of LCA. And you also alluded to many sort of connection points to Tacton. And now I'm going to hand over to Patrick Östberg, who is VP of Product Management here at Tacton, and he's driving our sustainability efforts in Tacton CPQ product. Over to you, Patrick.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. And now we'll talk about what we have done together, PRé, Tacton, and how we can really bring this sustainability and especially the environmental aspects of that in a new way, so to speak. So we have, so first of all, you have heard before about scope 1, 2, and 3, and this is a picture talking a bit about that. So you, as a manufacturer, you need to keep track of not just what you use in your factories, but actually, and that's called scope 1 and scope 2, so to speak, but also what you actually use for resources to produce that stuff for your product, and also what the products you're producing it's actually using during the complete life cycle. So that's you come back to this, let's say, this circular economy, so to speak. If you think about it from a, let's say, a product perspective, a life cycle of a product, you can look at it like this. You have resources you use for the product, you process the material, you manufacture, you distribute, you use the product, and then you have the end of life, so to speak. So here you have different categories. So if you look at the start, actually the resources, that's what you usually call the scope 3 upstreams, and also processing. It's usually scope 3. It's done outside your company, but sometimes also inside your company. Then you have your core of your manufacturing process, where basically that's what you use in that scope 1 to 2. And then you come to the more difficult part, which is the downstream, how your product is used and actually affecting the environmental, mainly, so to speak, the downstream, the distribution, the usage, and the end of life. And in many cases, it's the use phase that stands for the majority of the impact of the climate. And that's important to keep track of. And that's what we can do together with our solution with CPQ and LCA system. And that's, I will talk a bit about more now. So we also heard about transparency. So it's important to be transparent. I mean, price tag has been, of course, something you talk about on everything, but now also environmental impact become as important to show as an environmental price tag as normal pricing, so to speak. And you see that more and more in consumer product, and now that requirements comes also for the B2B and the manufacturing industry. So the transparency is the key. So basically, this will help you to drive competition and innovation of new sustainable products, and actually turn sustainability in a competitive edge. Be in the front line, keep your premium products as premium. It's going to be really important going forward, and actually put market forces into play. So we see two major challenges here when it comes to transparency. One is to be transparent during the quote and orders, and then it's about the complete life cycle of the product, meaning scope 1 to 3, but also doing the ESG reporting in a scalable way for scope 1 to 3, and especially for the environmental aspect of that. So how do you do that when you have a lot of variance in your product? You have millions and billions of variants to keep track of. How do you do that in a good way? So that's one of the really important aspects, and let's say, how do you scale this, and how do you basically make, instead of just having LCA experts, which I think Eric talks very much about, that so far the LCA system has been available for the LCA expert, the environmental expert. Now we want to bring that as a part of your sales process to non-LCA expert, to direct salespeople, to partners, to even to customers directly, having this information at their fingertip on top of all other aspects when you're configuring the best product for their usage. So if you look at, you can see some kind of maturity here, and we have looked at companies doing this, so to speak. And we see down to the left here that many companies are actually not doing an LCA so much, and it hasn't been so, let's say, demanding. But with increased demand on transparency from customers as a part of the quote or a process, Madeleine talked about new directives, having a more, let's say, rich in ESG reporting, even will demanded for financing for the finance market. So it will be required to manage this aspect in a more effective, efficient way, so to speak. So then actually moving up this ladder to actually go to manual scope 1 to 2 LCA reporting, and some companies are there, but it's fairly manual, so it's difficult to manage. And then actually starting to take the LCA system, integrate it with PLM, ERP, do it a bit more, let's say, systematic. But actually, to actually get to the level of scope 3, you also need to get the usage in place. And that's where we come in with this environmental footprint configuration, because as a natural part of the CPQ process is also the usage. So so having the usage and all the other aspect in the same solution, that makes the trick, so to speak, and creating a solution that enables you to manage this in a really, really systematic and scalable way. You can also think about even a further step where you actually measure the actual usage with IoT of the product in use, so to speak. But that's a particular next step, so to speak, to take. So Per talked about that CPQ is a way to manage. We are really good at manage different aspects of the product to find the best product, the technical aspect, or the fulfillment aspect the customer needs. And of course, there has been a lot of local regulations so far, like traceability aspect. Now, this sustainability comes as another dimension to the complete solution, where we will add this LCA system to the regulation aspects. And what we have done now is to actually create an out-of-the-box standardized integration with SimaPro to actually make also this aspect as a part of the CPQ process. So we have taken and created a realistic case for an elevator model in Tacton CPQ. We have also then added a corresponding elevator model, a dynamic in the LCA system. And then we have defined the interface and integration to that, what parameters need to be changed to do the full LCA calculation during the CPQ process. So the use case we will actually show here, where we have applied our standard functionality developed for this, is a particular elevator company which is selling an elevator to a hotel in Chicago called Chicago Waterfront. The company selling these lifts are Parker Lifts. So this is the Parker Lifts company we have now have as a illustrative real case. We will demonstrate soon here where actually a salesperson, a direct sales or reseller, or even a customer directly with high-level questions can actually get additional to the traditional pricing or the delivery times, and so also actually full life cycle assessment for this particular configured product. We will also show some more, let's say, technical aspects of this when you configure the elevator, not just the high-level usage questions. And then we will show also that transportation is an important aspect. And we will also here demonstrate both the effect of transportation via track and a boat, and also via air transport, which is probably the normal case if your lack of time. So now we will come over to the demonstration where I will show live how this look like. So what you see here is our admin environment in Tacton CPQ, and this is where you set up your CPQ, all the aspect of CPQ. But I will show you first how the solution will look like for an end user, for a direct sales, a partner salesperson, or a customer directly. So let's say here we have an opportunity, and actually you see here for this opportunity, it's already said that the installation site will be in Chicago, like I said, and the assumption here is that we actually produce the product in China. So I start by creating a solution. I add a product, and I come into the catalog, and I come in here. So this is the first thing the user can see. So you see here that already it's known it's going to be installed in Chicago, and actually then it's defaulted to see the energy mix in Chicago, in US, so to speak. Defaulted here, you see a number of high-level guided selling question, and to the right here you see directly calculated the life cycle assessment for this particular configuration. But and then you also see summaries here of what is the life cycle assessment for each of the life cycle stages decided to be important for this product. And also here, using the standards and the ISO certification, it's a 25 years life cycle, the lifespan of this product is used, so to speak. What now the user, the salesperson can do with high-level questions to say, okay, this is not residential, this is for an hotel. We know that this is going to be 10 floors. Actually, we want the elevator to be for 15 passenger maximum. And you see dynamically here, you can see the life cycle assessment calculation done for this particular configuration. And this is, of course, the combination of the conversion to a valid configuration in CPQ. That's the core of what we do. And then the combination of the life cycle assessment done in SimaPro on the fly based on that configuration and the usage questions on that. Of course, this is not the only aspect. You can also look at the prices, see here, compare the prices to find the right balance between prices, delivery times, and the environmental aspects. But what is even cooler with this, and even more, is that we can also optimize on different criteria. So now, default, it's optimized on high performance and fast availability. But we can also have guided optimization to say, no, I want the lowest CO2 footprint alternative based on those questions. So it will still be a valid solution, but it will be let's say, the solution optimized on the lowest footprint. And you see directly the footprint went down drastically based on this. So the customer, the user of this really are managing full insight of the sustainable aspects without being an expert on LCA at all. You can also here, of course, based on this, do more, let's say, detail on what kind of details on the floor setup, other things like that, more detailed. And you can also go in here and change, for example, what type of transportation, but also the services. So now it's some kind of silver service agreement, and that is actually an estimated life length of the product of 25 years. But PRé is also supporting a gold service package, which actually assumes a one-time modernization. So in reality, instead of buying a new elevator after 25 years for a new one lasting 25 more years, now you have one modernization where you change some of the parts needed to actually make the elevator work 25 more years and actually reducing the footprint even more. Based on this, the salesperson can get these configuration results comparing LCA aspects, pricing aspect, and other parameters if relevant. And then, even better, you can get the carbon footprint, more information about this, so the salesperson know more about this, even being a non-expert on LCA, and even in proposal, you can directly. You can create a new proposal. You can also decide to include a climate summary here. You can regenerate a proposal directly, and as a part of the proposal from ordinary stuff, saying what are the products, services, you also get a climate summary, which the salesperson can automatically and easy share with the customer, increasing the win rate drastically, because the end user, the customer of this product, will directly have all the information to actually close the deal. So this is how easy it will be to actually have the access of this. Now I will talk a bit about the how you set it up, how easy it is, so to speak. So basically in the admin environment, we have this product models, where we, as we usually do in Tacton, we model the product, we describe the different structures, we describe variability, constraint, all this aspect. We talk about the physical, the pricing, all those aspects. What we now have done is where we added another dimension, like we said before, and we call that sustainability. So in this sustainability, you could say extension of the normal configuration, you have a simple setting. In this case, we have to SimaPro, so it's easy to connect to the particular, let's say, instance of SimaPro. Here we also define which are the lifecycle states you want to actually divide the lifecycle assessment in. And then you actually can decide what are the parameters you want to exchange to with the LCA system to get the full lifecycle assessment done in a proper way. So this is really easy. So what you do here that you add these aspects to and this optimization, as we just saw, in parallel to adding this sustainability aspect to Tacton's configuration model, you also model this in SimaPro. So this is the same, let's say, product, but it's modeled in SimaPro, where you describe the LCA aspects and the details of that. What you need to do here is to also set up the parameters to exchange. You do that. Also the variants, we're working mainly with mass configuration, so the different variants you also need to set up here to be able to correspond them and calculate it totally. And then you can very easy connect them. So you basically just define here the LCA parameters to exchange with the out-of-the-box integration capabilities. And then for each module variant, for each let's see here, we take the module variants, you also define how you connect them to the LCA system in a particular way. So this is how easy it is to, so you build the model in Tacton, you build it in the in SimaPro, and then you connect it easily with these out-of-the-box processes. And this is what I was wanting to demo to end user and how easy it is to set it up in the backend.
So let's go back to the.
So now we're going to, yes. Okay. Okay, so the result of this is that you get a complete life cycle assessment, including usage. It's accurate. It's not based on average because you have the specific use case, you have the specific configuration, you have the specific supply chain aspect. So it's a really accurate one. You get it immediate, so the user see directly the impact of the high level question. It's actionable, so you can change this in an easy way for a non-LCA expert. Of course, it's cost effective. You can automate this and you can really share it with your customers in an easy way. And then when standards increase, actually customer will be able to compare. You can compare different alternatives, but also compare in different way. And it's actually going to be also used, be possible to use it also for the environmental aspect. If you sum up all these different quotes becoming orders, this will be a great increased source for any quality of ESG reporting. So the business value of this, what we just show, is actually quoting on one customer here, is that this is create a sustainable future for the business, so to speak, a sustainable business. You can do a cost reduction. You don't need to do it this manually, quote by quote. You can really systematically work on this. You can increase the win rate being really quick on actually adding accurate LCA sustainability aspect to your quote, you will increase the win rate. This will be, of course, more important in different industries. Madeleine talked about the building sector, and equipment for it is probably the first. Europe is probably before US, but of course this will come. This is about branding, reputation. Do you want to be a leader in this? Do you want to have a premium products and actually stay competitive? Basically, this is a way to stay competitive going forward. This is not so easy. We understand that this is a bit complicated. So that's why we are actually also working to set up some workshops to help you to see how can you implement environmental footprint configuration, and also engage in accelerated development to improve the capabilities we have done so far. So these workshops is available from actually Q4 in a couple of weeks. So these workshops is a structured approach where we help you how you can implement environmental footprint configuration. These workshops will be structured in, you could say, 3 steps mainly. First is about aligning business goals when it comes to this environmental and sustainability aspect. What products, what regions, what markets. And then it's to assess where are you? What data do you have in place? What systems do you have in place? What processes do you have in place? And then based on that, create an actionable roadmap, how you can actually take your steps towards environmental footprint configuration, and to do this in a scalable way. This is an example of what the workshops will talk about. It's about talk about which kind of information you need to be in place, which system, what processes you need to have in place to actually work with this in an efficient, good way, so to speak. So it's a lot about data, governance, and structure, so to speak. And at the end, we show you this maturity curve. So this is about helping you to actually move upwards this ladder and actually making you have this capability of environmental footprint configuration to allow you in a systematic way to work with full LCA for your products in quotes and orders and in ESG reporting. We will also have this product innovation program, the accelerated development, to actually involve with you to see what new capabilities. Probably it's easier after we have done these workshops together to figure out in more detail how we can help you. But already now we are really happy to engage in these kind of activities. Okay, that was all I had. So now we have time for questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Patrick. So we open up the floor for questions. And we have a first one here. Can you calculate other impact parameters besides carbon emissions? For instance, human toxicity, water use, and land use?
Yes, of course. CO2 equivalents, it's just an example of what we can do. And the solution we have here together with PRé and SimaPro here is very flexible in these aspects. So yes, we can calculate any aspect we would like to, or you would like to.
Excellent. Also here, can you calculate carbon footprint for very large products? Does the size matter here, calculating the LCA?
Of course, yeah. We can do for basically really big products. It's a bit of, okay, how instant we want to have it, but so it's a balance between speed and accuracy, and but there's no limitation on this in that aspect.
Excellent. Here is a question about implementation. How long does it take to set up the models in SimaPro and Tacton, and how long does it take to connect them in the integration? Do you have a
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it will take some time to set up the models in CPQ and of course also in SimaPro. But we have a lot of expertise together with PRé here on both the CPQ side and LCA side. But when that's done, the integration is out of the box, so to speak, and very easy to do, and you can do it gradually just by configuring things, no programming, things like that. So that's. But we will really recommend you to engage in these workshops where we can together structure the approach, finding a stepwise approach towards this, so to speak.
I think here's a question for you, Madeleine. Is climate disclosure a requirement already in the US too?
Well, I won't take it. So it's actually it is, because it's you have in California you have two bills. One has been approved, the other one will very likely be approved. That has to do with exactly what we talk about, and so yeah, it's really coming in. That will be the first state in the US. So probably more will come, and then of course you have the SEC. So that's a federal rule, so to say. Yeah.
Excellent. Can you also include social aspects in the supply chain, as with fair trade eco labels?
Well, it is possible once the data is available, I would say, because I emphasized in the beginning, we talk about the environment because that's where industry is starting to get good data for broad, so to say. But for social topics, once it is kind of more established and there are standards and there are more of incoming data to be able to use, yes, of course, the structure is there.
Eric here, have you seen that also in your work so far, working with manufacturing companies, also other aspect than environmental?
Yes, for sure, but there's one big difference, that for social indicators it's often more at an organizational level, because the social aspects are less different for different product configurations, for instance, because the working conditions will remain the same, as an example. So it's a bit of a different approach than with environmental, where it's really directly related to materials, processes, and so on. And for social indicators, that's a bit different, of course. So there it's more logical to do it at a company level, but still there will be differences at the product level as well. Yeah.
Great.
And to add to that, we are also one of the initiators of a methodology to measure the social impact of products and organizations. So in that sense, we have quite some experience, but it's, I would say, less mature still than environmental footprint.
Thank you very much. I think I don't see any more questions in the chat. So it seems like you're all happy with all the answers that these great panelists informed us today. So great. I think we can conclude here. Thank you very much for participation.
Thank you.
And thank you, Eric, from the Netherlands, for joining us. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can email me, and then I will forward you to the right person in Tacton or in PRé Sustainability. So thanks again, and see you soon.